Hi, and welcome into Meet Me in the Movies. I am Thomas Manning, joined today by a very special guest, Francis Galluppi. Francis has worn many hats as a filmmaker over the years, directing short films, music videos for the indie rock band Mount Joy, and now we have the release of his feature film directorial debut, The Last Stop in Yuma County. This is not even mentioning the fact that it was also recently announced that France is going to be directing an upcoming untitled Evil Dead film. So congrats on that. And, you and I, Francis, we've shared a few conversations since Last Stop first premiered at Fantastic Fest last year. I think this is one of those movies that, I could come back to this with about a dozen more questions for you every time. Obviously, you're just a guy who loves movies, so it's always fun to see you. So thanks again for taking the time today.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for all the kind words, man. It's much appreciated.
Absolutely. And we've talked about Last Stop from a few different angles. And, this time I'll start out talking about the character work here. And I think one of the many elements that makes this film work so well is the creation of these fully realized characters. And I feel like there's a unique history to all of them. They feel very lived in. So I'm curious for you as writer and director, do you have an idea of backstories for these characters and where they come from and some of their previous decisions, or is that more of a distraction than anything for you?
No, I actually, that's sort of my process. Is I wrote like 2 to 3 page character bios for every single character and sent that to the actor. And some actors don't want to read that stuff, right? They want to kind of like make up their own backstory, and that's totally fine. But like it helps me. I kind of do that before I even really put anything down on the page in the script. I kind of have to know their backstory and get a good sense of who they are. Once you do that, it's a lot easier to, have these characters fully realized on the page when you're able to like know their backstory, know where they're coming from, why they're there in the first place. So yeah, that's sort of my process. It obviously like it's constantly evolving, right? I think we talked about this last time we spoke as well. But it's, it starts with the character bio and then it becomes something different on the page. It becomes something different when you cast it. It becomes something different when they step on set and, they're in wardrobe and makeup. And so it's just a constant evolution of these characters. But I always start with a bio.
And one of the actors that you get to work with in this film is Richard Brake, and he plays one of the bank robbers. He's an actor that I've loved for a long time, going back to Batman Begins, and a lot of his character performances over the years, even if he just pops up in 5 or 10 minutes of screen time, he always makes the most of it. And I feel like just his look is so compelling. He's got those very intense eyes, and his cheekbones are very, very prominent. And I feel like for you as a director, that probably gives you just kind of this extra secret weapon almost of there's something inherently physically interesting about an actor. So I guess what does that give you? What does that give you as a filmmaker, and what do you appreciate about working with an actor like that who is just so interesting naturally?
Yeah, I mean, just aside from his look being interesting, he is a phenomenal actor. I mean, we've seen Rich kind of play the villain a lot, but he is so much more than that. He is a very talented actor. And I actually, so when I first started writing the script, knowing that my buddy James was going to finance it, or at least, part of it, I knew that he had a loose connection with Richard Brake. So I very much wrote the character of Bo specifically for Rich from the very beginning. And he was actually the first actor that I sent it to, and the first one that said yes. And this was this was probably 4.5 years ago, where he read it and said yes, 3 years before we actually started making the thing. And this was also at a point where it was going to be a very, very much a micro budget film. It was going to be like maybe $100,000 film if we were lucky. And he just really loved the script, and he liked the character, and so I was very lucky to get somebody like that tier of actor to sign on to this tiny little indie film out in the on Palmdale, California. Is very lucky. But yeah, Rich he's a very thoughtful actor too. So we had lots of conversations about um, who his character is and his motivations. And I don't want to like spend too long on this question, but I can tell you a quick story real quick if you have time.
By all
Um,
means.
okay, cool. So yeah, so I was constantly calling Rich, checking in with him every few months, and just letting him know like, hey, look, it's I don't know, I'm trying to make the movie, and every time he's like, I'm still in, I'm still in. So finally, I got to call him, years later, and be like, okay, this time it's for real, we're making the movie. And when I first talked to Rich about this character, I had a different approach, and it was very much like, you're a blue collared worker, you're in over your head. I wasn't trying to make like this like sort of twirly mustache villain. I was trying to make them like real people, and kind of and there was a whole backstory about it. And he seemed to really take to that. But then we did a table read, and during the table read, all I could, but Rich wasn't there. He's in the UK, and the whole time I was like, I'm so wrong. Rich needs to be really terrifying. And so I called him, or I texted him the next morning, really nervous, because I was like, oh man, he's done this before. He's not going to want to do this. He likes the blue collar worker angle. And but I had to be honest with him. I said, hey man, do you have time to jump on a call today? I need to talk to you about something. And he was like, I need to talk to you about something. I was like, uh-oh. So we jumped on a call, and he's like, you go first, you go first. And I was like, okay, look, man, I know what we talked about, blah, blah, blah. But I just told him, I was like, I think your character needs to be menacing. It needs to be terrifying, or the story doesn't work. And he was like, mate, I had the same thought. That's exactly why I wanted to talk to you. And from that point on, we were just really in sync. We were on the same page. And I feel like, he really trusted me, which was awesome. There was a lot of times where I don't think he was comfortable having this, being this toned down, right? We usually see Rich a little bit bigger. And I think he was nervous to like, play a more tamed version of this. But I mean, I'm incredibly happy with his performance, and I think he is as well at this point. But I'm obviously biased, but like, it's like my favorite role of Rich. Like, I think he is, I think he's really, really good in this movie. He's always good, but like, yeah, he's exceptional in this.
And talking more about that menacing nature of his character, there's a shot when we realize, we know that he's holding this entire diner hostage, but not everybody in the diner itself knows it. But the shot when they all realize, you use basically a dolly zoom or a vertigo type shot, and you zoom in on Richard and Jocelyn and Nick. And so I'd love to have you walk us through a bit of the planning for that shot. And I'm sure it was fun for you to get a chance to play around with just such a dynamic camera move like that.
Yeah. So first off, that whole sequence, that whole slow motion sequence, everybody hated it on the page. I mean, I think Jim from day one was like, even when we were shooting, he was like, what are you doing, man? You're putting a music video in the middle of your movie. Like, nobody believed in it. And I really had to stick to my guns. And I'm really happy with that sequence. But obviously, the dolly zoom is sort of the, so it closes that whole sequence. And it was very, very, very hard, especially because we didn't have like the right equipment to do it. Like, I think we had a whip to pull focus. We didn't have a wireless. So it was just like, it was very challenging. And the funny thing is, that day when we're shooting all these slow motion sequences, you're shooting in 120 frames per second, where basically all the action is double time to get like that sort of feel. And my family came to set that day to visit, and they've never really been on set before. So they were like very confused. Like, this is how you make a movie? Like, it's all MOS. We're not recording sound. It's just like every take is like a half a second, because it's so quick. Like, and I remember when we were doing the Vertigo shot, I guess Jim was outside talking to my mom and my dad and my sister, explaining like the physics behind a Vertigo shot to them, because they were like, "Oh, that was good." He's like, "No, they missed it. It's not like you can see the background." He's in Village and I'm like inside, and so it was really funny to hear afterwards. Or my sister was like, "Yeah, Jim like explained what you were doing," and it was really, really funny. Because yeah, it's a challenging shot to pull off, and I don't know how many takes we did, but I imagine it was over 20.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's one of my favorite shots of the movie, and one of my favorite culminations of a lot of different moments that have led to it. And
Wow,
yeah,
cool.
and then
Thank you.
I think and then on the other side of the break, we'll kind of dig back into more of that sequence and the events that follow. We are here on Meet Me in the Movies talking with Francis Galluppi about The Last Stop in Yuma County. We're going to take a quick break, and we will see you guys on the other side.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch it?
Hi, I'm Nikki Bliss Carroll, your host for Cleveland Connections, the show that explores what's happening at Cleveland Community College. Join us as we sit down with members of faculty and staff to discuss programs of study, upcoming events, and other exciting campus news. We'll have a new show for you each month on C19 TV, or you can stream us online at c19.tv. Tune in and connect with Cleveland Community College on Cleveland Connections.
Education is our most powerful tool to improve and change our world. Hi, I'm Rhonda Benfield, your host for School Matters. Join me for a new program every other week with information from and about the students and staff of Cleveland County Schools. Discover what our schools are doing to challenge students and help them reach their full potential. You can catch us on Spectrum Cable Channel 19 or stream us live on c19.tv.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch it?
Hi, and welcome back into Meet Me the Movies. I'm Thomas Manning, and we are here talking with Francis Galluppi, writer and director of The Last Stop in Yuma County. And we spent the first part of the show talking about some of the character work, some of the performances, specifically that of Richard Brake, talking about a dolly zoom shot. And now we're going to dig into some more of the technical aspects. And as we talked about, we have the dolly zoom. And then shortly after that in the film, all of this tension that we've been building up in the first hour or so of the film, it has to go somewhere. And it ultimately culminates in this wild shootout. And, not going to spoil any of the details there, but I am interested to hear more about your process as a writer and leading up to that moment, and then also as a director and figuring out exactly how to stage and block that. And there's so much precision in the framing, really in all of this film, but I imagine that sequence in particular required the utmost attention to detail and just taking from script to screen that shootout.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for all that. I mean, I always knew where this was going. I always knew this was the knife salesman's story. And, the end result of this standoff, I knew that was going to happen. I think when I was writing the script, I didn't know exactly how it was going to go down. And then I sort of created all these characters, put them in a room, and then it was just like, oh yeah, of course Miles is going to want the money. So he's going to point his gun at Pete. And you know what I mean? And it all sort of just came together on the page. I remember that night, I was like, I think I wrote till like 6 a.m. and I was just like having so much fun, playing around with that scene. And usually like before I read a script, I have a very thorough outline of like every single beat. But for some reason, I think when I was writing Last Stop, I had every beat except for like, I think it was just like shootout, like I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to go down, but like I made it work, and then in terms of the actual shootout, it was God. I worked so closely with my cinematographer, and we shot, design, storyboard. We do so much prep, and we had a lot of conversations about that shootout because the plan was this big kind of sort of operatic like crescendo going into the shootout, right, with the slow motion scene, and then having the shootout just like happen in an instant. So it was like, how can we do this thing in as little shots as possible, connecting every character? So if we're seeing something in the background which connects us to that. So if you're seeing like Robert shoot his gun, we're seeing Sybil jump over the counter, and we connect to everything. And it was also very much like, I've done a lot of like special effects stuff. And so like, I wanted to be thinking about like, okay, where should the camera be where we know we can like hide a blood tube, or we know how are we going to do this effect. So I was able to go to Jake, my special effects guy, and be like, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to put a tube in the hair. We're going to spray his face. And like, so it was all very, very planned. We didn't have a lot of money to do. We just couldn't do more than one take. We had to get it in one take. So, there was a really hard shot where it's an overhead where we see Rich shoot. There's spoilers. I'm putting spoilers all over this place, but like Richard, he shoots Jocelyn, and there was so much timing that had to work. There was like 4 things happening, and it was like, I know we only have one take, so we only have one wardrobe, and we're just, it was very nerve wracking. But look, I can show you kind of like, I think I've showed you this before, but this is sort of like the type of planning we do. So it's sort of like, these are all the shots, every single shot planned out. If you wanted, I could probably find the actual shootout, so you could see how planned so cool. It was. Man, it was just like, but that's what you got to do when you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of money. You have to be as efficient as possible. You have to be, and that's what we did for not only the shootout, but like, really every single shot was like, can we do this whole thing in a 2-shot? Can we do this whole thing in a 1-er? Because even though we might be doing more takes and getting your conventional coverage, it's still going to take a lot less time than having all these different setups to get your sort of conventional coverage. So as much as we could without like just doing it for the sake of doing it, we tried to do things in a single take. But obviously there is sort of your standard coverage all throughout the movie, because it works, like not everything can be just a long 1-er, 2-shot, whatever. So that was sort of how we went about. That's how we went about the shootout. Just like a lot of prep. Yeah.
And since we're talking about complicated set pieces, there's another one even further down the line in the film involving an oil tanker and a pretty massive explosion that we see, which I assume was a lot of that was probably practical, I would assume.
It was all practical. There was nothing CG. I mean, the only CG thing is like, it's not even CG. I just had to composite the person, the person standing next to the tanker. But no, that was all in camera. And weirdly enough, like that wasn't challenging, right? Because it's like, it's like you don't have many options, right? It's just like we get one shot, so it's the only time in this movie where we had 2 cameras, which of course when you're doing something that crazy, you're gonna have 2 cameras, and they had to be far enough away where even the angle was so like You had very little choices. So that one wasn't like as like challenging to craft. It was more just like, are we gonna actually be able to blow this thing up? And yeah, it was great. I mean, we like, and it wasn't even that expensive. Everyone was like, how did you do this? And I was like, well, I found a freaking oil truck on Craigslist for a couple grand and had my buddy tow it down to the desert. We rolled it down the hill and we blew it up. You know, I mean, obviously we had professionals there that were like, knew how to properly blow up a truck. But yeah, I mean, it was massive. It was, you really felt it. And it was just weird, man. Like, you know, you think, I knew we were going to shoot this movie in order. And I had been thinking about, you know, every day I played this movie in my head over and over and over again. And I knew every time I got to the end, like when we blow that thing up, I'll know we have something in the can. And so that was also the weird thing about like when it actually blew up, it was the last shot of the whole shoot. And it was just like, oh my God, it was a feeling I just can't describe. You know, it was like, I cannot believe we actually made it through this thing. So it was awesome, but also like awesome for in my own like personal way. You know, it was kind of a sign that like, yeah, we literally went out with a bang.
Yeah. Well, I know we've only got a few more minutes to chat here, but there is something else I want to speak about, which involves the production of this film. If I understand, there is a documentary that is covers part of the story of the production of this film called "Sell Your House." And that is kind of in production right now. And
yes,
it seems like that, you know, the whole theme of giving whatever it takes to make this film is going to be explored in that doc. Is there anything you want to share and plug about that project?
Yeah, I mean, Eric and Brandon are just incredible filmmakers. Eric is one of my close friends. He's a cinematographer for Naked and Afraid. And when he found out that James sold his house to finance this movie, he was like, yo, I just want to come and like do like a 10-minute featurette, spend a couple days on set. And like, it was just going to be something really small. It's like, oh, that's great. Like we'll be on the Blu-ray. And it's been a year, almost 2 years. And he's still, I mean, he's coming over here and he's going to be here in 30 minutes. He's still filming. And like, as excited as I am for this thing to come out, and I think he's doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. It's all them. I kind of want my friend back, like, because like now it's just like he's like, hey, can I like the other week we went out and we celebrated the whole Evil Dead thing, and like he brought his camera to dinner with my kids, and I'm just like, dude, like, when are we just gonna like be able to hang out? And there's not a camera around. He's like, soon. I'm almost done. So I don't believe him, but we'll see.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how all that progresses. And yeah, I can't wait to see some more of that. And yeah, well, it's been so awesome having you again, Francis, talk about Last Stop in Yuma County. And yeah, I mean, I think you and I could have conversations for days on end. So
oh yeah, man. Well, I'll come back. Let's do it again.
Yeah, we will. And listen, just congrats on this film, and you got the premiere later tonight, I believe. And
yes,
congrats on the Evil Dead news. And I know there's practically nothing you can say about that right now, but I know that Sam Raimi is one of your heroes, and
yes,
that franchise is one of, holds a very special place in your heart. So can't wait to see what you do with it, and I know a lot of other people are excited as well.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you all so much for watching and listening on Meet Me the Movies as we talk with Francis Galluppi about The Last Stop in Yuma County. And so, yeah, I can't recommend it enough. And yeah, so thanks, Francis. And we will see you all next time on Meet Me the Movies.
Morning.
Did you hear about what's going on at the gas station?
What's that?
Sorry, but our gas pumps are dry. I'm waiting on the fuel truck to show up.
Estimated $700,000. A witness spotted a green Pinto with a damaged rear end fleeing the bank at approximately 6:20 a.m. this morning.
Did you hear about the bank robbery this morning?
Hell are they doing over there?
It's the car.
Hang up.
close attention to what I'm about to tell you.
I had a rich old uncle.
Hey, Charlotte.
You're going to go about your day just like any other day.
Hey, darling.
He said that when he left, all his money would be mine.
What happened to your phone cord?
You're so smart.
If you're trying to think stupid, I'll shoot you in the face. Understood?
You learn something new that very day. You may not always like it, but it just turns out that way.
Stuck here too.
That's a green Pinto right there, ain't it? I got an idea.
But it just turns out that way.
Jesus Christ, does everybody have a gun?
Well, you learn something new every day.
Just like Bonnie and Clyde.
I want some of that money.
But it just turns out that way. When you think you're so smart, you got it.
I'm not the bad guy, okay?
You learn something new that very day.
Kill it already, darling.
Well, you learn something new every day.
What's the plan now?
What?
You may not always like it, but it just turns out that way. You learn something new that very day. You learn something new every day.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.
Hi, I'm Steve Putnam, and I'd like to invite you to join me for the next Talk of the Town. Each week I get to meet with some of the most interesting people in Cleveland County, and each show is packed with information you need to know to stay connected to our community. From promoting upcoming events to discussing local subjects that impact you, Talk of the Town has a little something for everyone. Plus, we're on every day, so it's easy to catch up with us. That's Talk of the Town, every day, every week, right here on C19 TV, Cleveland County's channel.
At CCC, we're all about training students for exciting careers. Our Barber Academy is a great example. Did you know jobs for barbers, stylists, and other related fields are increasing? Competition for the best jobs will be strong. With your CCC training, you'll have a definite edge. Our courses give you the skills and knowledge you need to sit for North Carolina's Apprentice Barber exam. To move up the ladder, you need at least 1 year of on-the-job training before you take the state's registered barber exam. If you pass, it's official. You'll be a registered barber. While private barber schools can cost $10,000 or more, CCC makes it affordable. Plus, you can complete our Barber Academy in only 15 months. Now the question is, are you ready to start your journey today?